you ever felt.
Are you listening? Damn.
Relationships as an area of our lives is often, unfortunately, undervalued and underestimated. Now, we need to understand right from the word go that whether you like someone or not is not always the point, is not always the question, because you and I as human beings need each other. We are interdependent. So it's not about, usually, or sometimes, it's not always about asking the question or saying to yourself, yeah, but I don't like you, I don't want to work with you. But we also need to keep in mind that sometimes the greatest gift that we can be getting is from those people that we might not be getting along with. So we need to, right from the word go, understand we need each other, and people enable other people to succeed. And obviously, the flip side of that coin is also true, that often people fail with whatever they're doing because they do not have the kind of quality relationships that they should be having. Now, please understand that in leadership circles, we often hear that we need to manage other people. But I want to challenge that kind of thinking because remember, human beings are not robots. Human beings are not machines. Hence, they cannot really be managed. However, they can be influenced because of how you're managing yourself. In other words, when we are talking about relationships, you need to please understand the importance of your role in any relationship, whether it is a relationship that you have with your spouse or a partner or your children or somebody at church or a business partner, whatever the case may be. You need to consider that your role that you need to play in a relationship is crucially important. And we often hear people saying, yeah, being in a relationship is a 50-50 kind of relationship, but it's not 50-50. It's actually you giving 100% of yourself, giving 100% of yourself. And why would you want to give 100% of yourself if, and I hear some of you thinking, yeah, but why would I give 100% if so-and-so is not giving anything from their side? Really? When has relationships become a transaction? When has a relationship become, we are counting how many times you've done this and how many times I've done that? A relationship is about my contribution to make this work, because we need to understand that without relationships, life is nothing. Let me give an example. If I were to say to you, okay, you've just won this fantastic prize, you can go to an island, you've got $10 billion and anything you would want, any technology, any food, anything, whatever you can think of, you can take with you or you can buy with your $10 billion. However, you are not allowed to take any human being with you. No living creature is allowed to go with you. There you would be on this beautiful island. Let's call it paradise. You would have all the money in the world. You would have all of what you would physically, materialistically could ever imagine to want to have. But you cannot have any relationship with anybody because there's nobody there. You are literally on your own. And maybe from time to time you would want that, but not as a life, not as a living, not as a lifestyle. So we know that we want other people around us. Maybe not that person or maybe not that person, but generally speaking, we do like people. You and I, as human beings, over the past 2 years or so with COVID, more so than at any other time in our lives, realized that we are social creatures. We crave for other people's presence. And yes, some people got along just very well without other people. But guess what? Even when you get back into what we can call society, you are going to interact with other people. And guess what? The moment you step into a shop, for example, you are in some form of a relationship with the person helping you. When you're crossing the road and you're helping someone, there's a form of relationship that we have with that person, however short it may be. So life without relationships is nothing. So that's why it's important that we need to embrace the relationships that we do have and to continuously, because it's a lifelong journey, to work on those relationships that we do have. Interesting thing to know is that the Mental Health Foundation in 2016 has released a report, and they say that the absence of quality relationships is killing us faster than obesity and a lack of exercise. An absence of quality of relationships can literally kill us. Not being melodramatic, it's a fact. Now, maybe it would not kill you physically, but if it kills you emotionally, well, what then are you living for? So I cannot overemphasize the importance of us doing whatever we can to work on improving the quality of our relationships. Now, the first bit of information I would want to leave with you is for us to know here, not just here, but to know that relationships is not just about what I can get. It's also about, or shall I say, mostly about what I give. Now, I'm hoping that you have been in a relationship before. And at the beginning of that relationship, oh, you're so in love and everything is hunky-dory and fantastic and wonderful, and you are willing to do anything for that person. You want to know what they like to eat and what they like to drink and where they like to do this and where they like to do. So we do so much, so we give so much of ourselves to the other person because we are in love. And then this thing we call time goes by, and at some stage we take things for granted. And the moment we take things for granted, then suddenly those things that we wanted to do for the other person changes into, what are you going to do for me? And the moment any relationship is about, what are you going to do for me? We are slowly but surely destroying the very thing that we should be nurturing, the very thing that we should be embracing, the very thing that is actually giving meaning to our lives. We are destroying that by wanting people to do things for us instead of asking ourselves the question, how can I make your life better? What can I do for you? How can I, as a human being, be of service to you as my spouse, as a partner, as a friend? How can I be of service to you as my child, as a colleague, as a business partner? Please note, yes, we do want to get, I get that. But the focus should not be on what I'm getting. We should change our focus to how can I give you more instead of me wanting to expect you to give to me. Now, please keep in mind that all human beings, as far as I know, fear failure. And some people fear success. Yes, we fear rejection. But you know what is our greatest fear of them all? You know what's our greatest fear? Of feeling I'm not good enough. I am not enough. Now, the moment we have this subconscious belief of I'm not enough, it means there's emptiness within us. Okay, can we go with it? There's a void. There's a hole. And guess what? When we feel that, let's call it emptiness, we want other people to make us feel great. Because when I feel great about you complimenting me and you saying this was good and you doing things for me, then I feel good because it fills the hole of I'm not enough. But the problem is then we get addicted to that. Let's call it recognition. We get addicted to wanting to be complimented, wanting to be, oh, hey, you're such a star. And when that goes away, then you think that they are the problem. They are not doing what they should be. Yeah, but you have changed. I think they didn't change. The only thing that has changed is they are not filling that void anymore. So you know what, man? You know what, sir? The greatest gift we can give ourselves is to cling to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And that is that simply because I'm alive, I am good enough. I don't require somebody to tell me that I'm good enough. You are one of God's creatures. You were created by the King of Kings. Of course you are good enough. You are enough. So when you can make that, let's call it a belief, let's call it a way of thinking, let's call it a mindset of I am enough, part of your identity. Make that way of thinking, I am enough. Say it to yourself, I am enough. Fantastic, I am enough. When you're saying that to yourself again and again and again, and you're making that part of your identity, then, ma'am, sir, you are free from wanting that recognition or acknowledgement or praise from other people. And when you know that you are enough, then you are in a position to give instead of only wanting to get to fill the void. Powerful place. I am enough. I am enough. In fact, I am more than enough, but I suppose I am enough is good enough. Then a very important part is for us to be able to getting used to, my language was poor, but anyway, we need to get better at managing our emotions. Because when you are in relationships, oh boy, it
brings about a whole range of emotions. And I'm sure I can, if you give me enough time, I can think of like 10 or 20 different kinds of emotions. But the main aim of what I want us to get is you and I as human beings can learn how to do anything. Well, maybe not fly, but you get the point. We can learn to do anything. In other words, we can also learn, we can get used to, we can practice how to manage our emotions instead of our emotions controlling us. I know, easier said than done, but it can be done. Because the moment you and I are better at managing our emotions, okay, if we are better at, or shall I say, when we are better at managing our emotions, then when so-and-so says whatever again, then maybe I'll be better at dealing with it because I'm better at dealing my emotions. Not dealing that person's emotions, but dealing with my emotions. And we need to get used to that. At some stage, ladies, gentlemen, we need to make a decision that I am worthy of the best. I am enough. And because I'm worthy of the best life has to offer, and because I am enough, I know I can control myself. Not easy, but possible. And because I'm better at managing myself as a human being, and because I'm aware of what ticks me off, because I'm aware of those, let's call it red flags, you know, those things that make you feel irritated. And then something else happens and you're a little bit more irritated. And then something else happens and boy, oh boy, and then another person comes around the corner and you lose it totally. But did you really lose it in the moment? No, not really. It all started because you did not deal with a, let's call it a level of frustration right at the beginning of your morning. You didn't really channel that anger that you had over there into something uplifting, into something empowering. You didn't do anything about the anger and frustration. You didn't do anything about you nearly losing your temper. In other words, it's all now bottling up. And then so-and-so just gives you a look and you're and then we talk about emotional intelligence. But please note, you may lose your temper. I'm not saying, but we've got to be very good at, we need to be better at managing our emotions so that we prevent the losing of the temper. Okay, great stuff. When we are, and I'm sighing so much because this is a deep one, we need to get better at asking questions instead of being critical. In other words, when, and I'm going to use my wife as an example, when my wife gets home and she looks like this, then I really want to run away because I cannot deal with that kind of pessimism and negativity and I'm so tired. Well, she is a grade 1 teacher, 41 children in her class, so I get that. But I don't want to get that. So when I see her just getting out of the car and I see her body language, then I want to run away. Why do you allow them to do this and that and whatever? Why this and why that? But those are the wrong questions. If I'm really curious, if I am really interested in building this relationship, I could be asking, I see you've had a bad day. How can I help you? And this was not sponsored by FNB. How can I help you? Or I know she loves coffee like I do. I can just be proactive, get some coffee, and when she steps into the house, have some coffee ready. In other words, I am asking myself, what could I do? That's being curious and not critical. Or I could be asking her, what went wrong today? And there are times when I realize I actually, after 25 years of being married, I don't really know that part of her. So sometimes we ask questions and then we get to know this person better. And please know, that when we know better, we can do better. I'm going to repeat that. When we know better, we can do better. So it's good to ask the loved ones questions. We know, maybe you're familiar with Albert Einstein saying that you cannot solve problems with the same level of thinking that created those problems. So if you are in a tough spot in a relationship, or maybe you've been in a tough spot in a relationship for a while, we cannot get out of that tough spot by thinking in the same way as we have been thinking. I suppose that makes sense. But the question we can ask ourselves is, okay, if a, let's call it an old way of thinking got me to this place, how would I know what to think? Good question. If I know what caused me to be in this tight spot with this relationship, what would I have to do to get out of it? Well, for starters, you need to know what role you played in getting you in this tight spot.
Not what the other person can change.
Not what the other person can change, because we do that far too often.
If you treat me with love, if you this and if you that, and you, what are you doing with this relationship? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand that influence always starts with you influencing yourself first and foremost. We want other people to jump when we say this or that or whatever, but we're not willing to do what we should be doing to improve a relationship. But it's not nice to hear that, is it? It's not lekker. Nice. Maybe you are the problem. Maybe you are the cause of what's been going on. But you know what I think? I think lots of things, but in this case, if you are the cause of this, isn't that great? Because if you cause this, it means you can change this. I'm going to say this in another way. If you didn't cause this issue, this problem, this challenge, this tight spot, if you didn't cause this, then it means you cannot change it. But if you've got the guts to take 100% responsibility for what went wrong, then it means you are putting yourself in a position, mentally in a position to be part of the solution. Because if it's someone else's fault for creating this problem in the relationship, then it means somebody else needs to solve it. No, but if you take responsibility for whatever went wrong, it means that you're putting yourself in control of the solution. Not control of the person, but it puts you in charge of the control of the solution. In other words, you can then say, what can I change to make this better? And will this happen overnight? I don't think so. The problem was not, the challenge was not, the tight spot was not created overnight. So maybe it could take a week or a month or 2 months or maybe 4 years. It doesn't matter, because we need each other. So we need a different way of thinking. And how do we create that different way of thinking? We need to understand first and foremost that whatever got me to this tight spot is going to have to change. And how does that change? By me changing my own thinking, making the daring decision to change my thinking. There's a gentleman called Rich Simmons. And when Tonito and I and Rich and Joshua Olsen were doing training at a company a few years ago, 5 years ago, he taught me the following valuable lesson. Choose to be kinder instead of being right. Okay. Now, I had to hear that often to really understand what it means, that because I'm a control freak, I like being right. I love being right. Maybe it's a male thing, I don't know. But
whatever it is, I like being right. So oftentimes in my life, I was focused on being right instead of being kind. So ladies, gentlemen, I needed to practice to stop trying to be right and to prove that I was right and make my focus, changing my thinking to I am kind instead of I am right. So I'm changing my thinking, I am kind. And when I make I am kind part of my identity, then it's easier for me to think about being kind instead of being right. Let me say this again. Even if you are right, rather be kind instead of having to prove that you are right. Because even if you have proven that you are right, what did you gain? Did you now win this battle? Yeah, I won this battle, yeah. And then you've lost the war. So maybe we can keep a bigger picture in mind. Focus on being kind instead of being right. Now, please understand that human nature, when we've got this fight or flight response, those are the two I'm going to be talking about now. Fight or flight. Fight or flight by default means you are focusing on you. So when a person attacks you, well, not literally, but verbally they attack you and they say, why did you do this? And you are the reason why we now have to postpone this and that and whatever. What is your instinct tell you to do to defend yourself? So please understand it's human nature that when we want to fight or flee, to go away, it's normal, it's human nature to focus on the me. But then we must come back. We must be mature enough to come back to this person and to say, I'm sorry, I overreacted, or whatever the situation was. So yes, to fight or to flight, normal human response, but then to say, I'm sorry. And those are words that as a married man, I needed to get used to saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I can even be sincere because often I am sorry. And then sometimes I'm not really sorry, but I do get that harmony at home is a good thing. Harmony at home is a good thing because when there's no harmony at home, it affects or impacts my work elsewhere. So I need to do whatever I need to do to try to, as much as it is humanly possible, to create harmony at home. And then sometimes we say, I'm sorry about this, without necessarily meaning it. Don't go there often, but you get my point. I'm hoping. Jim Rohn has once said that if you find a big enough why, you will find any how. So often when I deal with clients, specifically in the context of relationships, what made the two of you fall in love? Sometimes it takes them a while to go back to where they were then. But when they are there mentally, why they have fallen in love, then the next question is, okay, love is an interesting thing because it can often make us blind to the other person's mistakes, flaws, faults. So my next question is, what about this person? If you could, what about this person do you like? What characteristic about this person do you appreciate? So that maybe this thing we call love is not as present as it should be or as it used to be. But what about this person do you like, or do you appreciate, or do you think is good for you, or good for the household, or good for your child or children, or whatever the case may be, so that we can then change the focus from we hate each other to what got you to fall in love at some stage, moving it to the present and say, okay, what do you like about this person? And the moment you have that kind of vulnerability, because vulnerability is a beautiful thing. It hurts, but it's a beautiful thing, because then we are open to the possibilities that can come from this. And ladies, gentlemen, you can only do that when you have a big enough why. Why would you want to make this relationship work? About 2 years ago, I had a serious fight with a good friend of mine, major. And I decided, well, if I never see him ever again, that is too soon. And about 2, 3, 4 days later, I realized, but Petrus, this is not how it should work. That what are you willing to do to nurture this relationship? What are you willing to give up to nurture this relationship? Because I had a big enough why. The moment you and I have a big enough why, we will find a how. We need to understand that where your focus goes is where your energy flows. What does that mean? It means if you're going to blame the other person for why you are upset, the first problem is, I'm going to do this again. If you are blaming that person for why you feel a certain way, it actually means you are giving the control that you have to feel certain things, you're actually giving it to that person. You are, in other words, giving control over your life to another person. You are, in other words, saying that you control my happiness. You control my level of satisfaction in a relationship or in a project. And we may never give that kind of control to another human being. Never. We may not allow other people to control our happiness. Yes, certain people we like more than other people, but it's not about being happy or not happy. I think the whole society's got a whole obsession with happiness instead of focusing on being fulfilled. So yes, maybe you're not having a great day, but if you have a relatively okay or good or high quality relationship, it makes it all worth your while. So we need to know what we are focusing on. We may never, please never, allow other people to control how we feel, because then we are actually blaming them for our state of mind. And the moment we are blaming, we are actually giving them the control. It means, and I'm referring back to what I said a little earlier on, in other words, I'm saying that you will determine how I feel. So if you are unhappy, I am unhappy. If you are in a mood, then I'm in a mood. If you are dissatisfied with this, then I'm dissatisfied. Really? So do you not have any backbone? Do you not feel for yourself? And I'm very adamant about that. We need to know what we are focusing on, because whatever you are focusing on is where your energy goes. So if you are focusing on the reasons why this will not work, then it will not work, because your energy will go towards this not working. But if you've got a big enough why, an exciting why as to why you're going to make this work, then your energy will flow towards solutions. And then when you've got a mindset of solutions, well, you will see more solutions than otherwise. Question: what kind of belief are you willing to sacrifice to make this relationship work? For example, I am moody. Really? I am moody. Is that a belief? Or is that just a state of mind? Because when we say, I am moody, I am moody, I am moody, often enough, guess what neuroscience shows? It becomes part of your personality. And then you're just a moody person. And there's other words we could have used in that case. So we need to be very careful how we label ourselves. And maybe we need to let go of some of those labels. What kind of expectation can you let go of in order to make this relationship work? What are you willing to give to improve this relationship? And as I have said earlier on, please ask as many questions as you can. Do not make any assumptions. And now I'm loudly and clearly talking to myself again. We often make assumptions that You know, because we've been around the block and we've got so many T-shirts that we think we know what has happened and we think we know everything because of whatever the case may be. But we need to get better at asking questions and not make assumptions. And this is a beautiful thing, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you've got children. Connect before you correct. Connect before you correct. When my daughter was a teenager, which felt like 50 years, I needed to constantly remind myself that I've got to have a connection with her before we can talk about what I would want her to correct. And that's a major challenge, more often than not. But when you and I have a way of thinking that I need to connect before I correct, that is a mindset that's going to serve you so well. Think of ways in which you can connect with your child or your children. Think of ways in which you can connect with your spouse or your partner. Think of ways in which you can connect with a business partner. Think of ways in which you can connect even with strangers. Because the moment we know how to connect, it puts us in a better, call it a better position to correct. And when you're a parent, there's a lot of correcting to be done. But that's okay. That's part of the journey. Connect before you correct. I'm closing with actions speak louder than words. So it is one thing for us to say, yeah, but I tried this 2 months ago and you didn't like it. Really? 2 months ago? What did you do yesterday? What did you do this morning? Relationships, you know what? We live in an instant gratification world. I mean, you can send a WhatsApp to someone and within seconds, potentially, they can respond. You can send an email to someone from South Africa to anywhere in the world, and within minutes, potentially, they can respond. I mean, with technology like this, you can have a meeting with anybody, anywhere in the world, any time of the day. Wow. Because of technology, we can build a business much quicker today than it took, for example, 15 or 20 or 30 years ago. But guess what? It doesn't work like that in relationships. You don't read a book, and now you've got it. You don't attend a session like this, and now you've got it. It requires a lot of work, and I know it's bad news, but that's okay. It requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of discipline from our side. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, we invest in things we value. Whether it is property, whether it's business, whether it is a pension fund of some sorts, but we invest in things we value. So if you're not investing in your relationship with your spouse, if you're not investing in your relationship with your child, if you are not investing in a relationship with your partner, if you're not investing in a relationship with your friends, it tells them you don't value them without saying a word. And I know that it's not true. I know that you value them. I know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be attending this Kickstart 2022 session. And because you value them, let's put our thoughts, our ideas into action. Because actions speak louder than words. A student of Dr. Leo Buscaglia once wrote the following. Remember the time I borrowed your brand new car and I dented it. I thought you would hit me, but you didn't. And remember the time I spilled blueberry pie all over your brand new car rug. I thought you would smack me, but you didn't. And remember the time I forced you to take me to the beach and you said it would rain, and it did. I thought you would say, I told you so, but you didn't. And remember
the time I flirted with all the guys to make you jealous, and you were. I thought you would leave me, but you didn't. Remember the time I forgot to tell you that the dance was formal and you turned up in jeans. I thought you would leave me forever, but you didn't. There were many things you didn't do, but you loved me and cared for me and you protected me. And there were so many things that I wanted to make up to you when you got back from Vietnam, but you didn't. What a hard lesson for a young lady to learn. We don't have forever. We don't know if we are going to have tomorrow. But we know we've got this moment. So if you've got a I'm sorry message to send, do it now. If you want to say, I appreciate you, do it now. If you want to buy the flowers just to say, you make my life wonderful, do it now. Because we don't know if we're going to have the luxury of yet another day. So say what needs to be said. I love you, I appreciate you, I respect you, I honor you. You make my life better because you are part of it. When we can get used to saying, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me. And we make our relationships as important as other people would want you to make it. Then you don't have to live on your own on an island, because then you will realize each and every cell in your body will know that even the person you don't really like as much might be worth more than $10 billion. Because you and I as human beings need each other. Let's celebrate being alive. Let's celebrate being in relationships with people. And then who knows, perhaps your life will be a celebration. I thank you.